Uncle Gene just walked in. You look just like Milton. I can't believe it. I've never had the pleasure, but very nice to meet you. You look like a mini, a mini Milt. What can I say? I'm not going to take too much time to talk about my friend Milt Bassin's extraordinary career. But I do want to tell a few stories that I used to tell Milt that he got a great kick out of, and it had to do in part with both of us being City College graduates. Milt was a mechanical engineer. He graduated in '43. I studied mathematics, and I graduated in '63. So there was a 20-year gap between us, but we really became good friends the year that I was appointed president of Baruch, and Milt stepped down in 1991. But we both had a great love of this university. That university, our university, gave us the opportunity to do things in our lives that we would not have been able to do. I'm sure Milt, as with me, had the ability to get into some fancy universities, but we had no money. And in that sense, it was great because we both had an extraordinary education. Throughout his professional life, he basically had one job. After going into the Navy, where I think he spent 2 years, he found himself at New York City Technical College, first as an instructor, then a dean, then the president. And then he came to an organization called Your College. He was the second president. And working with this community, he fought like the Dickens to get this university a part of the South Jamaican area. And really, the rest is history. If it were not for Milt Bassin, this place probably would not have existed in the way that it is today. So all of us, all of the students and the faculty who have called this their home for many years owe a debt of great gratitude to Milt. And you'll hear more about that from other speakers. But not even Milt's family know about these stories. They're not untoward, but we used to like to talk about City College stories. So let me just pull out from my memory bank 2 stories that Milt, I remember telling him these 2 stories, and he couldn't breathe. He was laughing so much. And one had to do, I always had an interest in the arts. I loved literature, I loved music, I was a musician, but my field was a technical subject, and I once took a course at City College in 19th century symphonic literature. And a fellow in the class said to me, "Would you like to go to the opera?" I had never been to an opera before. This was probably 1961, 1962. So for $2, we went to see Tosca at the old Metropolitan Opera House, and we sat in the very last row of the balcony, and without exaggeration, my head was no more than 18 inches from the ceiling. But when the music began, I was mesmerized and knew that opera was going to be something that would be very much a part of my life. So Milt said to me as I was telling him this story, "So, what happened?" I said, "So I go to class the next day, Milt, and some wise guy in my class," and there were only a few of us, most of them were taking this class because they thought it was a sure C or a B. I was taking it because I was really interested. So some wise guy shouts, "Goldstein went to the opera last night." We had a very proper Brit who was our professor. And in those days, you addressed your professor as sir. And he turned to me and he said, "Matthew, is it true you were at the opera last night?" And I said, "Yes, sir." And he said, "What did you think?" What did I think? What am I to think? I went to the opera. I had nothing to think about. So I thought for a second, and as only God would know, the following came out of my mouth. I said, "Professor Nallon, I think the tenor was weak." And he looked at me, and this is when Milton is on the floor. He is hysterical. He looked at me and he said, "Matthew, I was at the opera last night." I said, "I am dead. Just take me out of here." And he said, "You know what? You were absolutely right. The tenor was weak." Story number 2. Bernice, he couldn't breathe, your husband. And then he would tell me stories. These were all City College stories. I am now a senior at City College. I am on the train, and I was not one that studied a lot. I would study at the last minute, and so help me God. In my right hand, I had a text on mathematical logic, and in the second hand, I had a text on the history of Western logic, which I think was a required course. The first exam was at 8. The second exam was at 9 o'clock. We were in a packed train coming in from Brooklyn. There was a portly gentleman who was sweating profusely standing next to me, and a woman, very attractive woman, very close to him as well. And within a minute, he started to collapse, and as he put his hand into his breast pocket to take out what turned out to be nitroglycerin tablets, he fell to the ground, and he was out of it. That summer, I was a lifeguard, so I knew how to administer artificial respiration. And immediately, the car pulls away. Everybody in the car moves away from me, and I open up his tie, and I'm administering artificial respiration because I could see he's not breathing. And Milt is saying, "So what happened?" I said, "Well, there were 2 old Jewish ladies standing watching me. And one lady said to the other, 'I think he's doing it wrong.' I think he's doing it wrong." Anyway, we got oxygen into him, and he was revived, and he was taken off the train. I went, and then Milt said to me, "So how did you do in those courses?" I said, "Milt, I got A's in both of those courses." So that was Milt Bassin. He loved stories. He was a loyal friend. He loved his family deeply, always talked about his family. He had an engineer's way of attacking problems. He was a very smart guy. but he loved to laugh. And he himself told some great stories, which I don't think would be appropriate for this audience tonight. So thank you very much. It's wonderful to see the family, wonderful to meet the young brother, Bernice, the children, everybody connected here with the Bassin family. Thank you all for being here. And Mark, Barney, I will tell Richard Rothbard that we ran into one another, and Calagian, right? Okay, thank you all.
So good afternoon, everyone. It's great to see you here on this October 22nd. How serendipitous, because we tried a number of dates that didn't quite work, and then we hit a number that happens to be a significant number for us at York. So it is really my delight and pleasure to welcome all of you. I want to thank Chancellor Goldstein, who had to leave for some other events. I want to acknowledge his phenomenal work during his tenure. I want to also acknowledge the fact that through him, we were able to hurdle some obstacles in order to name this building. And so I want to just say a word of acknowledgement for the Chancellor in absentia. And I want to welcome everyone here on behalf of our 8,400 students, our 208 full-time faculty, our many adjuncts, our administrators, and our staff. Dr. Parmet just acknowledged the family, and especially Bernice. And I want to turn my next acknowledgement and welcome to the Bassin family, to Mrs. Bernice Bassin, to Lori Bassin, to Sanjeev Sharma, their children Noah and Maya, to Robert and Allison Bassin, to Judy and Eugene Bassin, to Anita and Arthur Ash, and others who are here to celebrate this naming that is a symbol of the legacy of Milt Bassin, the legacy that he left to York College and indeed to CUNY. Thank you to the family. Yes, good, thanks. Not only for what you gave to us during those 20 important years, but what you continue to give to us here at York in more recent years, to your support to our institution, to your service on our board, our foundation board, through your significant contributions to the college through the Milton Bassin Merit Scholarship Endowment, and as well to your personal support to me during the time that I have gotten to know you here at York when we first met, when we brought Milt back and gave him an honorary doctorate. So to the Bassin family, a debt of gratitude to you all. We've got a lot of folks on the program, and I want to just give a heartfelt welcome to all, to our faculty, to our alumni, to our students, to the broader community, to our elected officials, those who are here already and those who will join us. I know that Assemblywoman Cook will be here, Congressman Meeks, Danique Miller. You'll, of course, hear from our borough president, Katz. And I do know that Leroy Comrie is also in the House. All of these individuals, either in their current positions and people who were in their positions before, served as key anchors in supporting Milt Bassin, and today that legacy continues as they support me and York in their roles and in my role as president. Many speakers will undoubtedly remind us all of the Bassin legacy, of his tenacity, the tenacity of the man. Barney Levantino is here. He can attest to that, I am sure. They will admire his vision for York as a senior college within the CUNY umbrella. They will applaud his wisdom in cementing the relationship with the community to advocate, some would say agitate, on behalf of York College to the city and the Senate and the state. They will note that were it not for his strong coalition that President Bassin built, a coalition of town and gown, which we tried to emulate, that coalition would not have survived without his leadership, and we would not today inherit this wonderful space, the 50 acres right here in downtown Jamaica, the academic core, the health and phys ed building, this very building, the PAC, that will be named for him. And we look to a time when we'll see yet another building rise, which will close out, if you will, the Bassin legacy, a building that will house our state-of-the-art business school, will provide some spaces for students, long sought after affinity spaces, and it will be our academic village and conference center across 159th Street. Other speakers will, I'm sure, attest to other qualities of Milt Bassin. I know that our alums, and I think Donald Vernon is on the program, you will hear from him, a distinguished lawyer, how York College transforms the lives of our students. It was so good for Vernon that he sent his son. And so we have 2 alums in the Vernon family. And then it was so good for Judge Grasso, who is in the House, that he sent his son here too. And that's the kind of legacy that Milton Bassin established. And these students, sometimes starting very shyly, became engaged learners, lived to fulfill their intellectual and human potential, to realize themselves as citizens of the world. York, as some will say, is an agent of intellectual and academic growth. For people who were born and raised right here in Jamaica, to people who were raised around the world. It serves as that beacon. So we're grateful to the Bassin legacy, and we're proud to carry it forward, building on that very, very strong foundation. His is a legacy of intellectual vibrancy, of scientific discovery, of cultural experimentation, of academic excellence, of civic engagement, that have impacted the lives of our 22,000 alums, but also our current students right here at York. We see the Bassin legacy in our faculty. You're hearing from one of our phenomenal scholars of history, Dr. Parmet, who is serving as our MC. But the legacy continues with some junior faculty. Just recently, a young faculty member in behavioral science, Dr. Michael Sharp, published his important book, Post-Colonial Citizens and Ethnic Migration, The Netherlands and Japan in the Age of Globalization. Drs. Emmanuel Chang and Dr. Fernley, both of chemistry, shepherded 2 doctoral students in chemistry as part of a consortium with the CUNY Graduate School, and so York just had its first 2, if you will, graduate students in chemistry. Yes, that is the kind of work, that is the legacy. Others, like Dr. Margaret Van Dries, our distinguished lecturer in the arts, her exhibit, the Diva exhibit, not only brought excitement to the campus, but it was displayed downtown in Jamaica. And you have already heard a little bit, and you'll hear some more, of the artists in the music department. Our big band, Dr. Slabinger, is known far and wide for helping to keep alive in the college and in the high schools a music that is so much a part of Jamaica's history. 3 York faculty are currently Fulbrights, Dr. Perry, Dr. Rogers, and Dr. Maldovan, working in the area of business and in social work. And our distinguished lecturer, Dr. Ron Daniels, brings both a practical and theoretical application of the civil rights movement to his classroom and his leadership of students. This year, in 2015, the coming year, he will lead a cohort of 30 or so York students. they'll be joined by some CUNY students, and they will be pilgrimaging to Selma, Alabama, to mark the 50th anniversary of the Voting Rights Act. So that, ladies and gentlemen, part of the legacy that Milt Bassin built. Yes, it was definitely bricks and mortar, and we needed that. That was the sine qua non that would engender everything that we house today, everything that bursts from our seams, everything that develops here at York, that expands into our proximate community of Jamaica and into the larger community of the world. That is why I am proud to celebrate this naming today, the Milton G. Bassin Performing Arts Center, on this day, October 22nd, the same day 28 years ago on which President Bassin presided on the ribbon cutting of the academic corps. This naming not only honors our past, it links to our present, it symbolizes our future. As president of York, I am proud to welcome you all to this particular moment and to congratulate and honor the Bassin family in behalf of all of our 8,400 students, our 208 faculty. I'm proud to serve as the leader attempting to serve in the legacy of Milt Bassin. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Dr. Keizs, for your very gracious remarks. And now I would like to call President Carlisle Towery of the Greater Jamaica Development Corporation.
Well, what a nice occasion. It's indeed an honor and really a special privilege for my organization, Greater Jamaica Development Corporation. We're a nonprofit that's been around about the same time that York College has, and we've been working in many ways with the college, which has been and is mainly a centerpiece of Jamaica's revitalization. It's a pleasure to be among such, and privileged to be among such distinguished elected officials. Our congressman is here, our borough president is here, several of our elected officials, Senator-elect Comrie, I believe, is here. So it's really an honor for us to do it. I wanted to thank Matt Goldstein for his exemplary leadership over the years as Chancellor of CUNY, and for giving us Marcia Keizs, whose 8 years at York's helm have been exceptionally productive. Jamaica, and in fact the entire New York metropolitan region, are the grateful beneficiaries of their leadership. We celebrate and honor an extraordinary leader, a master builder, the way we related to him, a builder who dreamed dreams and led us all to work with him, excuse me, to make those dreams come true. Engineer, educator Milton Bassin didn't just build buildings, though. He created places. He created an environment, excuse me, taking an idea and cementing it around the commitments to design, finance, and construct a campus. Moving from temporary facilities, initially 2 trailers at Queensborough College, Community College, then 8 miscellaneous buildings rented in downtown Jamaica. And then he produced out of that a community of activities, this campus. He knew that with York, he was building the centerpiece for an urban revitalization effort of local and regional significance. And he was doing so in a neglected, underserved part of New York City. As one reporter said it in acknowledging the work here, on a bleak expanse of land. Milt did so by assembling and motivating an exceptionally talented and dedicated action-oriented team which prioritized community growth and maximized impacts through participation in the college's creation, its mission, its development, and to be sure, its challenges. How appropriate here, it seems to me, in this theater, is to associate Milt with the arts, on campus and beyond. He was an original and active director of Jamaica Arts Center on Jamaica Avenue here, at which he helped solve a real serious crisis in its early years. I remember him well for his effective advocacy and his solid wisdom. He was on our board at the time, and he took on the assignment of helping Jamaica Arts Center develop and grow. He saw the arts, I think, or I heard him once say, as essential to community development, pathways to opportunity, as well as doors to self-enrichment. I fondly recall the energies of several key members of President Bassin's team, Barney Levantino here, a key member of that team, Claire Paisner, I think, is here. I remember her well. Several others, including Alan Cooper, who just walked in the door. I remember another dozen people that really were energetic, and the energy and the glue to making this thing happen. Greater Jamaica Development Corporation and York are about the same age. We were created in 1967 by business and civic leaders, and York in 1968. Both organizations were born, if you will, in the tensions and the unrest of the 1960s, when urban decline and demographic change, suburban sprawl, economic displacements were racking America. Divisive trends that were leaving people behind, eating up open space, causing gaps in workers and their workplaces. With Regional Plan Association, Greater Jamaica's parent, and our business and civic leaders approached Mayor John Lindsay, who appointed Reverend Robert Ross Johnson, as many of you recall, to the CUNY Board of Higher Education, it was called then. And Bob Johnson helped the mayor act very courageously to place York in Jamaica. Mayor Abe Beam, Governor Hugh Carey, Borough President Donald Maness, Congressman Joe Adabo, then Deputy Borough President Claire Schumann followed suit with strong leadership. The retired Mayor Lindsay, at the dedication of one of our buildings here in the past, I'm not sure which one, said to Milt Bassin, putting York College in Jamaica was the best, best decision I ever made. So in conclusion, I respectfully take the privilege of tenure to commend and acknowledge the leadership of several key people in this community. Archie Spigner is here with us, former councilman and currently a very active member of this community. Guy Brewer, the late Guy Brewer. Dr. Knut Bernard, whose widow Daisy Bernard is here, and who was among the strongest, most resilient, and persistent advocates for York College that can be imagined. Knut Bernard. Where's Daisy? There were several city officials that warrant acknowledgement, too many to name, but Don Elliott, the Planning Commission under John Lindsay, stuck with this project over thick and thin, and several people in the mayor's office, including a man named Andy McGuire, who ran a special office out here, and Stanley Natkins. And I want to say and especially acknowledge the initial chairman of Greater Jamaica, all of who knew Milt. Joe McMurray was my first chairman. He was the president of Queens College, and Queens College was instrumental in York being here. Vincent Albanese, an attorney. Joe Healy of New York Telephone, if you remember that company. And Therese Malloy of Chase Bank, who's still around. They all knew Milt, and they praised and really supported his contributions in producing this very strong engine for community development and economic revitalization. So it's appropriate, I think, to be reflective today. But the entrepreneurial Milt Bassin would have urged us, I'm sure, and as Greater Jamaica's new chairman, Peter Kulka, who's with us today, has directed me to pledge, to look ahead and to pledge ourselves to the college's future, its growth, the growth of its campus. Marcia Keizs just mentioned this academic village, very exciting project near here that we enthusiastically support. We have aspirations, as others do, for a downstate pharmacy school at York College. And the college supported development that Governor Governor Cuomo has made possible here in his Startup New York program that we and York are working together. So if you will, I think you'll understand why I conclude with the charge that is merely onward. Let's move ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, President Towery, for your recollections and insights. And now I'd like to turn to the Honorable Gregory Meeks.
To Dr. Keizs, the Bassin family members, my colleagues in government, the borough president and Assemblywoman Vivian Cook, Archie Spigner, Leroy Comrie, Danique Miller, visitors, guests, this is indeed a joyous occasion. It's joyous because I believe this is the first time that an individual for whom we are renaming a building and renaming the Performing Arts Center for the former York College president, Dr. Milton G. Bassin. You know, I'm so proud, Dr. Keizs, of this university. I'm so proud of its accomplishments. I'm so proud of what you are doing with this university. But one thing that we always must remember, that without the foundation, without the initial vision, without the determination, all those things that we see for tomorrow could never happen. And so, without the leadership of President Bassin, we might not be here today. We might not have this great York College that annually graduates hundreds, if not thousands of students with impressive and various degrees who go out and contribute to our city and our state and our nation today. Dr. Bassin's life and career will forever serve as an inspiration for current and future York students, as well as a model of excellence for current and future faculty, staff, and administrators who have the honor of providing a first-class education for young people enrolled here at York College. Under President Bassin's decisive and innovative leadership, York College survived the fiscal crises of the 1970s, primarily because President Bassin rallied the York College community. We forget, and sometimes you think and you look things are easy, because they're easy now compared to what they were then. The struggles that took place, the fights that were had, the debates, the angling, the politics, all were taking place to make this place a reality. And it was President Bassin who was that great conductor, bringing people together to make sure the dream of having a first class and a 4-year senior college in downtown Jamaica would become reality. It was his dream and his commitment to make it happen. And so he brought together students and faculty and administrators, the greater Jamaica community, parents and clergy and elected officials, community activists and civic leaders, and the higher education advocates to make sure that they lived up and made this challenge. And he not only successfully led us through this battle for York's survival, for York to remain in Jamaica, Queens, for York to continue as a senior college, but he also had the vision and the boldness to spearhead the campaign to build a state-of-the-art campus right here in downtown Jamaica. Without President Bassin's persistence and perseverance, this campus would not have been built. We would not now have a physical platform and an institutional basis for future growth geared toward accomplishing 21st century educational tasks. And I believe all of us, whether members of the York community or residents of the communities of southeastern Queens and beyond, should use today's renaming ceremony to rededicate ourselves to the cause that President Bassin held closest to his heart, constantly nurturing and molding York College as a top-flight institution of higher education that educates, equips, and inspires young people, particularly those who, like Dr. Bassin, come from modest and impoverished origins. You've got to remember, he didn't come with a silver spoon in his mouth. He came as an immigrant. He came full of determination, and it's that spirit and that desire to acquire knowledge and skills and courage and unshakable determination to go out in the world and use education to make the world a better place. So in this sense, it is especially appropriate that it is the Performing Arts Center that is being named for President Bassin. For it is here that student talent and creativity expressed through plays and dance and concerts and exhibits and dialogues and informational events comes together, which reinvigorates the curiosity, the thirst for enlightenment of the surrounding communities. And it is through performance of our responsibility to always and consistently help York College going forward from this ceremony to meet the challenges of today and tomorrow that we will to uphold Dr. Bassin's brilliant legacy. And so, as people walk into this building and look up and see Dr. Bassin's name, we can proudly say, and they will proudly know, who was the founding father of this university. And his determination and his spirit will continue to live on to inspire and educate others. Thank you.
Thank you, Congressman Meeks. You've inspired us. Now I'd like to call the Honorable Melinda Katz.
Good afternoon. What an exciting day. Let me first acknowledge our great colleague in government in Washington, bringing resources back to the Borough of Queens, and for his constituents, the Honorable Gregory Meeks, who I love working with. Let me also please acknowledge the great work of Dr. Keizs, who has earned a reputation throughout the entire city of New York as being a leader and leading the way at York College. Let me also please acknowledge the future senator in Southeast Queens, Leroy Comrie. I don't know where he is, but Leroy Comrie. And of course, to the Bassin family, we are honored by your presence here today. I'd like to welcome everyone not only to York College, but to the Borough of Queens. We have many visitors here today who have come simply for this dedication because of the faith that they have in York College, or because of the family, the Bassin family, and because of the great work that Milton Bassin did. So for those of you that live here in Queens, we are moving and shaking, and we are doing everything we need to do to make Queens the future of this great city. For those of you that are visiting today because of this great dedication, come back another time, eat in our restaurants, and spend all your money right here in the Borough of Queens. We love to show off. And today we have a dedication of Milton Bassin Performing Arts Theater, and I think that it is key to remind folks that exactly where York College is going and exactly where the Borough of Queens is going is just what Milton Bassin seemed to have dreamed of. He dreamed of an institution in Southeast Queens that would graduate researchers and doctors and judges, like former judges that we have right here on the bench in the state of New York. And we are right now in a very pivotal position in Queens, where we are creating economic development and affordable housing and jobs right here in this great borough, so you don't have to go over a bridge or under a tunnel to get everything you want. You could get it right here, and York is leading the way. York just was awarded a grant for Startup New York to create jobs and businesses right here in the borough of Queens. They are a partner in the Jamaica Initiative to grow Jamaica to its fullest extent so that we have folks that live here, move here, educate their children right here in the borough of Queens. They are major anchor partners, especially the Performing Arts Center, who partners every single day with the surrounding community so that folks don't have to go anywhere else to show their culture from the 130 languages that we speak right here in the neighborhood. So York is fulfilling what everyone tells me Milton Bassin's dream is. So isn't it appropriate that we are here today for this great dedication? I congratulate you. I thank the foundation also from York College, and we look forward to great things from the Milton Bassin Performing Arts Center, and we are honored to be part of today. Thank you. So I have because this is what we do as borough president, I have a proclamation. It's what we do. And because I'd love everyone to support me in the future, I will not read the whole thing. Can I get a round of applause? Because I can read the whole thing. So if I can have, who am I supposed to do this with? Dr. Keizs, maybe, to come up, and we can just give this to you. And what I'm going to do is read a small portion of it, which is a proclamation. Whereas we thank Mr. Bassin for his hard work, dedication, and commitment to academic excellence, tens of thousands of students have been able to receive high-quality, affordable education at a renowned liberal arts college right in the heart of Southeast Queens. I, therefore, Melinda Katz, President of the Borough of Queens, do hereby proclaim Wednesday, October 22nd, as Milton Bassin Day in the Borough of Queens. Congratulations.
Thank you, Borough President Katz. Assemblywoman Vivian Cook and New York City Councilman Danique Miller could not be here today, but they too sent proclamations, and we thank them for that. Oh, she was. Okay, my apologies. I stand corrected. Now I'd like to call the Honorable Archie Spigner.
To the Bassin family, my colleagues in government, Mrs. Bassin, Congressman Meeks, Borough President, all of the other, there she is, Borough President, all, President Keizs, ladies and gentlemen, friends and neighbors, sisters and brothers. From time to time, sometimes some of us have had the good fortune to have been part of an historic mission which changes lives for the better. Milton Bassin was so blessed. He came from an immigrant background. He was part of a generation that used educational opportunities to its fullest. And he never forgot his roots. His father, I'm told, was a Yiddish poet. And there's a Yiddish saying that goes, God gave us big problems, but also big shoulders. And Milt Bassin had big shoulders and also a big heart. His educational background, his record as president of the New York Technical College, and his compassion for the economically deprived prepared him to assume the presidency of York College when Reverend Robert Ross Johnson, founder of the St. Albans Congregational Church, and also the Friends of York College, selected him to take on the responsibilities of that position. The fight to have York College become part of the Jamaican community was tough. It was originally opposed by Governor Rockefeller, and Mayor Koch didn't help. But under the leadership of those like Milton Bassin, Reverend Robert Ross Johnson, who was also a member of the Board of Higher Education, Mayor John Lindsay, Hugh Carey, Paul Gibson Jr., Congressman Nadabo, Senator Andrew, and many, many others, too many to mention, and many more made our victory possible. It was an historic group of great and noble persons from our churches, sororities, and fraternities, civic and civil rights leaders that united together for the common good. And through it all, Milt Bassin's leadership, vision, stability, and what has been called his relentless determination motivated and strengthened our movement. Significantly, he supported us at a historic gathering in the Storefront Museum. Some of you may remember Tom Lloyd, when we convinced then Governor Hugh L. Carey to support the school building plan in Jamaica, Queens. The decision which changed for the better the academic future and lives of thousands of students in Southeast Queens and elsewhere. York College has truly become the beacon of hope that all of us wanted it to be, and it will undoubtedly continue to motivate and positively impact on generations yet to come. Happily, its academic reputation and student body increases yearly under the leadership of our dynamic president, Marcia Keizs. And Milt Bassin would have been pleased. And now, when future audiences come to this great performing arts center to experience outstanding cultural and entertainment, they will also see the name of one of the great heroes of our city, Milton G. Bassin, a fitting tribute to a great educator and a true humanitarian. I am honored to be and to participate in this well-deserved tribute. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Spigner. You've heard his name mentioned before, now you'll hear it again. And I'd like to introduce York alumnus, Mr. Donald Vernon.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am honored to be here with you today. But before I start my remarks, I want to take this opportunity to thank the Bassin family for giving us President Milton Bassin. Now, I didn't say lend, I said give. Hey, how you doing, Vice President? All right. So here it is. I said give because as long as your college exists, he's going to be part of us. As long as I live, he's going to be part of me. So we never really gave him back. We kept him, and he's still here with us today. So for that, we thank you for giving President Bassin to all of us. I also want to take this opportunity to say, or to acknowledge all the dignitaries that came before me. I just feel like I got set up here because here it is, all these magnificent speakers, these presenters, and then they bring little old me as the last speaker. But I'm not going to try very hard to repeat what other people may have said. I am hoping to bring a unique perspective to the table. You see, I was indeed one of President Bassin's chief antagonists. After my freshman year, I became president of the student government at York College. And then I remained president for the next 3 years. And during that time, it was my opinion that President Bassin did not care about us. But like children, we have no perspective of history, meaning that students at the time were like children, and in fact, reflecting on it, President Bassin was the greatest parent I ever had. And I believe that he was the greatest parent that I ever had, and this is not to diminish the sacrifice that my biological parents made, but in life, there's always people that cross paths with you that lend so much to who you are that they deserve that title because they help to cultivate and to mold who you ultimately become and how you make a difference in the world that we live in. And from my experience, as much as I was that antagonist, reflecting upon that relationship that we had as students and I had as the student leader with President Bassin, truly, and I mean this, I would not be the man I am today without the guidance, caring, nurturing of President Bassin. Now, the question may be, why do you say that? Well, here it is. You know, after being in the annex on 150th Street in Jamaica, and then passing this hole in the ground and ultimately moving over, we were all filled with excitement. We felt it was our school, and we were determined that we were going to influence the course of the school, how it was run, when we took vacation, what the core curriculum was like, and you know, we thought we were going to have resistance. And as much as President Bassin included us in the school senate and made us equal partners in the decision-making process of the school, we didn't appreciate at that time the importance of that and the fact that indeed he was letting us in. So we continued to fight, and we claimed victories and so on and so on. But at the end of the day, upon reflection again, and at the time, you know, in the heat of battle, you tend not to see the wisdom or the direction, you're just fighting. But we truly, and I truly did not recognize that President Bassin saw himself in us. And I must explain that just for one little bit. At the time, York College was predominantly a school of immigrant people, working class. In fact, a vast majority of the population at the time were people who worked full-time and went to school part-time, evening school, that type of thing. And President Bassin was forever given an understanding of that population, of that group of students. But the telling point came when the governor at the time, I believe it was the senior Cuomo, had raised the tuition on the entire CUNY system. And the students at the time felt that this was not in line with the mission of CUNY when it was originally created as an institution that was designed to allow immigrants to pull themselves up by their bootstraps, and that we were being priced out of a college education and therefore being taken out of a competitive process as it relates to the job market. And so we started the process of taking over the school. And for 13 days, I believe, or 14 days, we chained the gates, we locked the doors, and we shut the school down. And at nights, we would wonder, why isn't the cops coming in? You know, now we had people like, you know, Reverend Norris, Bishop Norris now, and other community leaders that supported us. But there was many opportunity during those days when we had meetings with President Bassin and his vice presidents and his senior staff. And during those meetings, it started to dawn on me that our protector was indeed President Bassin. And I know that he was, because during that entire situation, as much as everyone else was saying that, you know, he doesn't want us to have victory on this tuition issue, as the leader at the time, I saw that he wanted nothing more than to make sure that we got an opportunity to express ourselves, we got an opportunity to push back on this idea of changing the mission of CUNY, and at the end of the day, we concluded as a group that President Bassin was truly, truly our protector. So my reason for telling these stories is to say that not only was he the founder, the father of this institution, but as long as he was in the leadership of this institution, he was also the father of all the students that was a part of this institution. And I am so proud today to be here with you and to share my little piece of history with you, to explain to you and to not justify, but to rationalize why some part of this institution needs to bear this great man's name. Because indeed, he lives with us today. His work with his students have produced people who continue to give to this community. And because of what he did, this university is now the intellectual crossroads of this community, a community that truly needs it. So we hope and we pray that as time goes on, that God will deliver to Southern Queens and to your college other President Bassin that will protect, guide, nurture, and develop all the human beings that passes through this great institution. And for that, he will never be forgotten by me, and he should never be forgotten by you. And most importantly, it needs to be the case that this community truly understands and appreciates the contribution made by this great American. Because indeed, he does what we're not seeing enough of today. And that is that he's developing young people so that we can all have a better future. And for that, I want to say, President Bassin, as much as you're in a better place today in heaven, we're here knowing that you're looking down on us, and we want to say once again, thank you for all that you have given to all of us. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Vernon, for your very moving tribute and not so little piece of history. I'm sure we all appreciate it. And now we have another of our own, Ms. Janae Hunter of the class of 15.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. First off, I would like to say how happy I am to be the first ever recipient of the Milton G. Bassin Merit Scholarship. This scholarship has helped me get one step closer in achieving my goals. I came to York Early College Academy from PS 140 in Jamaica and started the program in middle school. I graduated from high school in the first class of YECA in 2013 with a total of 60 college credits and a GPA of 3.7. Now, I'm a journalism major and a communications technology minor here at York. and I'm on track to graduate this May with my bachelor's degree, the first person in my family. I am extremely grateful to the Bassin family for the scholarship, and I am proud to be carrying on his tradition. Now, I would like to introduce the son and daughter of Milton Bassin, Robert and Lori Bassin.
Good afternoon, and thank you, Janae, for that gracious introduction. It's especially meaningful to us to be introduced by Janae Hunter, who is a journalism major, as she told you, and a graduate of the York Early College Academy, one of the many incredible programs supported by York College, who is the recipient of the first Milton G. Bassin Merit Scholarship, the first of many to come, we hope, due to the generosity of so many people who are here today. This tribute would have touched our dad deeply, as it furthers exactly what he believed in and worked so hard to secure: a high-quality educational opportunity for all. So on behalf of my mother, Robert, and on behalf of my dad, I want to thank everyone who has made the scholarship fund a reality. And I particularly wanted to mention a couple of people who've been incredibly generous, one of them being my ex-husband, Sanjeev Sharma. My cousin Anita and Arthur Ashe, my uncle Gene and Judy Bassin, and my mom for supporting it so heartily. On the subject of gratitude, we have a lot to be thankful for here today, and many people to thank for making this day possible. I want to acknowledge a few of them for their commitment and efforts to make Milton G. Bassin's name a permanent part of the York landscape. The York College community got very lucky 4 years ago when President Keizs appointed Dolores Swearin Yao to the role of Vice President of Institutional Advancement. Dolores brought a wealth of experience that she acquired while CEO of the Girl Scouts of Greater New York and as executive director of the New York chapter of the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society, as well as spending time as a senior development director at the Red Cross. She has worked tirelessly to broaden the base of support for York and has been our family's point person here at the college, ushering us through all the facets of honoring Dad. She helped to generate and facilitate all efforts to acknowledge his work here at York. She's the consummate professional, often wearing many hats while staying calm and oh so cheerful under pressure. I've come to believe that she can master any situation and resolve any crisis short of a nor'easter. She and her dedicated team are responsible for making today's dedication ceremony a reality. I also want to acknowledge CUNY Chancellor Emeritus Matthew Goldstein, who spoke earlier, who prior to becoming chancellor served CUNY along with Dad as president of Baruch College and as president of the Research Foundation of the City University of New York, and who luckily for us did not announce his resignation as chancellor until July of 2013, 1 month after he presided over his final board meeting, during which the CUNY board voted to approve the naming of the Milton G. Bassin Performing Arts Center. Having known Dad personally, and having witnessed his dedication and determination to bring world-class education to an underserved community, he readily gave his blessing and set the wheels in motion. We are here in large part due to his commitment to this undertaking, and for that we are forever grateful. Finally, I want to acknowledge the person who has been most responsible for shining a light on Dad's legacy here at York, President Marcia Keizs. President Keizs, from the moment President Keizs arrived here at York in 2005, following a long and impressively varied career at CUNY, including Vice President of Academic Affairs at Bronx Community College, deanships at Queensborough Community College and LaGuardia Community College, and even a stint as the acting president here at York College. She graciously and magnanimously embraced Dad, welcoming him back to the college and acknowledging his place in the history of York, honoring him in tangible ways that have meant so much to all of us. In 2007, she invited him to commencement to receive an honorary doctorate. I know it was thrilling for him to once again stand on the podium looking out over the beautiful state-of-the-art campus that he had fought so hard to secure for this community. And I bet it was even more gratifying looking out at the sea of beaming faces of graduates and their families, many of whom were celebrating the first college graduation in their family. And then in 2011, just 9 months before he passed away, here in this wondrous auditorium, you honored him at York's 45th anniversary celebration, where he got to hear tributes from alumni, students, and community leaders. And then 2 years ago, you initiated the process that brings us here today. You planted the seed with Chancellor Goldstein and pushed to cement Dad's legacy in this most permanent and extraordinary way. My mother, Robert, and I, along with the entire Bassin Sharma family, want you to know how deeply we appreciate your efforts to bring this to fruition. You so clearly share with Dad a steadfast dedication to nurturing and supporting the students here at York, to creating programs and an environment that will serve them and the community. We are eternally grateful for your generosity, your thoughtfulness, and above all, your gifted stewardship of York. And now my brother would like to.
Nice job, Jess. Very nice.
So the first thing I want to say is, if my father was here, he'd say, come on, cut it out. Those of you who knew my dad knew what an incredibly humble man he was. And he is probably the last person that would have ever thought that a building would be named after him. I want to start by just acknowledging and thanking people who spoke today, to Bob Parmet and Chancellor Goldstein and President Keizs, Carlisle Towery, Congressman Meeks, Melinda Katz, Archie Spigner, Donald Vernon, man, you know my dad. It's exactly the kind of dad he was. And Janae Hunter, congratulations. So incredibly rewarding to see someone like yourself receiving the first Milton G. Bassin Scholarship. And I also want to acknowledge someone who didn't speak today, who is Matt Katz, who is the director of the now Milton G. Bassin Performing Arts Center. So when I was a kid growing up and trying to figure out what I was going to be when I was grown up, I would think to myself, well, you know, my kids whose parents, or my friends whose parents are in business, they're going to go into business, and my friends whose parents are doctors are talking about becoming doctors, and my friends whose parents are lawyers are talking about becoming lawyers. What does a kid whose father's a college president grow up and become? And apparently you grow up and you go into politics, which I don't know what that says about college presidencies. But my dad believed in politics. And he didn't, it wasn't the politics of today. It wasn't the politics of just raising money and running ads and tearing down your opponents. It truly was the politics of hope. It was the politics of hope before Bill Clinton came along with the politics of hope and before Barack Obama came along with the politics of hope. It was the belief that you could galvanize a community, all different segments of that community, and come together and affect change. And that's exactly what happened here at York College. I hope that we can return to that day of politics of hope. My dad lived his life by, as I was thinking about this, by 3 pillars. I would call them the pillar of family, the pillar of community, and the pillar of sanctity of education, York College. And so I'd like to briefly just talk about each one of those pillars. They say behind every great man there's a great woman, and this case is no exception. My mom is saying, Barney's not the great woman behind. He's great, and he stood behind. He was with Dad, but he's not the great woman behind him. My mom was by my dad's side not just as the love of his life, but she was his partner in entertaining faculty, in listening to his problems, or I guess what we would call challenges these days, over dinner, in terms of looking after the kids. Whatever it was, she was always there for him. But it didn't just stop in our house. My dad loved his family. He loved his brother Gene. He loved his sister Ruth, of blessed memory, his nieces, Anita and Debbie, and Jan and Michelle, his grandchildren, Noah and Maya, and of course, Lori and I. And we, all of us, not only loved our dad, but we're always so proud of him. Not just for what he did, but for who he was. Honest, caring, loyal, funny, that dry Bassin wit. He was brimming with integrity and humility, and he was smart beyond belief. And he was passionate about life being better, not just for his family, but for everybody. Which leads me to the second pillar, which was this community. My father wasn't just committed to this college. He was committed to this community. This college represented a means to an end, a means to better this community and the lives of the people who lived in Queens, and in particular in this part of Queens, and people, many of whom were going to college for the first time and wanted to get their foot on the ladder of the American dream. He never lost sight of that, and that was reflected in his involvement in the Greater Jamaica Development Corporation and the Jamaica Arts Center and the Queens Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Children and the NAACP. I don't think there was an organization in this part of Queens that he wasn't involved in. And now let me just turn to the third pillar, the sanctity of education. And I think my dad did look at it as sanctity, because it was his passion, his commitment, his dedication and devotion to York College, his belief, as one of the earlier speakers said, my dad didn't grow up with a silver spoon in his mouth. He grew up not in a middle-class family, but in a poor family. A family he used to tell me about that during the Depression, they were on food stamps or public assistance, said that his parents always tried to hide that from him, but he knew that that was the case. His father, as someone said, was a Yiddish poet. Anyone know any rich Yiddish poets? He came from very humble beginnings. But my dad believed that a higher education was the key to unlocking the American dream. And he wanted that to be available to everybody, just as it had been available to him. And York College became the means through which he could help others get their foot on that ladder of the American dream, unlock the American dream. And as Donald was saying, when they proposed the tuition for the City University. He was one of just a very few number of college presidents who opposed that. And he opposed it adamantly because he didn't want there to be any impediment for any individual to be able to attain a higher education.
And he said, if they start tuition here, who knows where it will go? It will just keep increasing, it never decreases.
So York College was the embodiment of everything that my father stood for. He loved this institution. He loved the people who worked here. He loved the students who studied here. And he loved this community. And there wasn't anything he wouldn't do for it. Just to close, when I was a child and I'd ask my dad what I should do when I grew up, he actually didn't say go into politics. What he would say is, I don't care what you do. I just want you to do what makes you happy and be the best at it. Milton Bassin did what he loved, and it made him so incredibly happy. And he made us so incredibly happy. Thank you for this beautiful honor for this man who never would have expected that his name would ever be on a building at York College or any place else. It's a beautiful tribute to his memory. Thank you.
Thank you, Laurie and Robert, for your wonderful, very, very moving remarks. I'm sure everyone was touched. This now concludes our program, and I'd like to thank you for coming here, being part of it, and sharing in this momentous occasion.
All right, everybody, the unveiling of the Milton G. Bassin Performing Arts Center. On the count, 3, 2, 1.